Greetings, everybody. Nina the Mystic here, and welcome to another Sunday Live. Tonight is a premiere. We do have some special guests with us tonight, but I just wanted to wish you guys very happy holidays. I know it's the winter solstice today when this is airing, and so I hope that you guys are doing something fun for that. And yeah, join us up in the live chat. Make sure you hit that like right away. Share this out, okay? And check out the links down below for other platforms to join and their website and all that good stuff, okay? So I'm going to bring everybody up here. Let's see. First of all, we got Robert. How you doing tonight, Robert?
Doing good. Ho, ho, ho.
A lot of people don't celebrate that, but whatever it is that you're celebrating, I hope that you guys are having fun. Now, let's bring on our guests here, and let's see if I can bring it up into this mode. There we go. Welcome, welcome. We got Mike and Cindy. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing great. Thanks for having us, Nina and Robert.
Thank you, Nina and Robert.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys. I've seen you guys lots over on Wayne's channel, and of course your own channel. You got several YouTube channels there that you guys are doing a lot of work. I mean, it's multiple times daily, I would say, videos. I don't know how you guys do it. I do one a week, and that's enough for me, you know, like, but so good for you guys. Yeah.
Thank you. Actually, I was looking at the stats because we had something sent to us from YouTube. And basically to both Arts and Evolutionary was the original channel from 2017. Arts in 2019, we started it when Evolutionary was hit with strikes because of the subject matter, you know, the whole plague about the land thing that came. So yeah. we had to roll to the backup, and I had got an inkling like 1 month before that you better have a backup channel. I think it was like our guides coming through. So I had just got the channel up. Next thing you know, it's like I can't post for 2 weeks. And then when the 2 weeks were up, they hit me with a different video and I couldn't post for 2 more weeks. So, you know, it was quite an adventure. And when we ended up having a third channel that we added to, because we had a lot of people that were on a spiritual path that they said, I don't want to hear you cover the news at all anymore, but I like you talking about spirituality and other things like that, ascension. So we started a lighter channel. That's Heart Home. And so there we don't go into anything controversial. Well, yeah, I guess you could say controversial. We try not to go into stuff that's going to make people anxious there. It's a softer, gentler channel.
You know, I have the same problem. You know, I got the spiritual side, and that's how I started on YouTube, but it's more about what's going on, really, current events now, because things are just getting so intense. It's hard to, you know, and that has ruined my channel, I would say, as well, because, you know, the audience, you confuse the audience. You know, not everybody's into everything like we are. You know, they got the one thing, and that's it, and that's all they want to deal with, you know, so... Yeah, I hear you on that one there. You know, it's I had a different, I actually had a different channel before that got taken down, but that was my own fault for copyright strikes. But yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's like I was on Facebook for the longest time, pre-2017, and then they just took away my channel, you know, my Facebook page, and I was maxed out with followers, and I had like 1,000 reviews, and I wasn't savvy enough as a business person to copy all that. So when they took it away, because I was talking alternative health, I guess a little too much, I lost it all. And then, you know, I decided to go to YouTube instead of Facebook and start from scratch.
Yeah, that's funny. I started on Facebook too, and that was so different back in the day. You know, when you went live there, you went all over the place. You got all kinds of new people jumping in. It was fun. You know, even YouTube back in the day, it was fun. Like now with the way that they've set up the algorithm, it's horrible. Like we were watching our, you know, views going down like crazy. You know, they've got it set up now. If you don't watch one video, let's say one video comes across you're not really interested in, you don't click on it, well, you won't get notified anymore from that channel. That's how YouTube's got it. So if you just miss one video from anybody, all of a sudden they're gone, and it's out of sight, out of mind. I've noticed it too. I'm like,
Like I was, me and Nina were talking last night about the channels and stuff. I think not only as the algorithm changed, but I think it's changed to, suit with the people, because the people have changed themselves. Kind of what we're going to talk about here tonight, maybe with the Kali Yuga and stuff, is the fact that people are changing. They cannot keep an attention span very long, because I will have a show for 2 hours on Tuesday night, or an hour and a half or something, probably on a Saturday night. Nino will do a show for an hour or hour and a half, and you'll get 30, 40, 50 views. Maybe we'll get 100 and or so on my 2 hour show. Maybe I get 100 now, and when I used to get 250. But the thing is then I'm gonna break them up in these 30-second shorts, and guess what? I'm getting 500 to 1,000 views on them. So is it that the people have changed? They just can't sit through it, and they just want them highlights, that dopamine rush from that quick, stimulant. Ooh, look I seen something cool. Can anybody really sit down and read a book anymore? Watch a movie? Well, things like that take your attention span for a long time.
You're right. You're right. That's part of the AI conditioning. Isn't this part of the AI conditioning in so many ways?
We're getting overstimulated, and we're getting bored easier and easier. And somebody brought that to my attention the other day. I was actually on one of the prepper channels. We've been so conditioned now to all this stimuli. Like, a lot of people are addicted to, PIORN, you know what I mean? And a lot of people that you won't even think. And they're sitting there for hours, like there's this whole thing with that. But anyways, like if the grid goes down and we have nothing anymore, those people are going to go insane when they don't have that, or they don't have the social media and all these things that we're used to just clicking. I've noticed myself, like I'll be watching a movie or something, but that's not enough. I got to go on social media too and do both at the same time. It's not enough of a dopamine rush now. I've noticed it with myself as well. So I can only imagine the young people and all the people out there. Like, this is going to get real scary if something like that is about to happen. Because of that, we're just so overstimulated. We're so used to having that stimulation constantly. We can't sit down and read a book.
It's like somebody addicted to drugs, and then they get desperate when they don't have it.
Yeah, well, that's going to be another real problem too if the grid does go down, because those people aren't going to get that either. So, I mean, it trickles down to that, but it's not just those people; it's us too, us regular people who don't think that we're addicted, but we are. To so many things, and we're not going to realize it really until it's gone.
Yeah.
And then
it's that. Well, we've been conditioned, even outside of the phone and the computer, for that instant gratification.
Yeah.
You go to the store, you want something, it's there on the shelf somewhere. Whichever store you want. You can get on the internet and click a button on Amazon, and that whatever is delivered in a day or two, instead of going through and shopping and searching.
Or saving for something. That concept is gone, right? You know what I mean?
And even now with like Uber Eats and deliveries right to your door, I want Subway. And then it's to your house just like that. I didn't even have to leave it. I'm going to have whatever right now. And like Nina said, if there's ever a glitch in the system and I can't get it right now, what's going to happen?
They don't know how to cook. I mean, you know what I mean? Like the young people don't know how to cook. I mean, they don't know how to do a lot of things.
Well, they don't have food in the house either.
Yeah, the flour and everything could be there, but they wouldn't know what to do with it. They would literally starve to death probably, because we've gotten that far away from our basic way of living, So, but anyways, I'm not here to rag on the young people, but there's going to be some.
Okay, so here's the question to you guys. We're coming of the new age. Is this how the new age is ushered in? Is this why it's happening, or are we creating the change ourselves?
Well, I'll throw in my 2 cents, and then he'll throw in his. But I look at this as very deliberate. It's very important that they shorten our attention spans, because if your system is overwhelmed and overloaded with information, you're less in touch with yourself. Your intuition is going to start to fade out. So if you look at, I think, times in history where intuition and the third eye consciousness starts to rise up, it seems like there's this other system, which I call the controllers. They come in and they want to suppress that. They want to use that for their own purposes. So I think it's very deliberate. I don't think humans are that way naturally, but we do have a choice. So we can choose to put the phone down, put the TV down, do the things. But as humans, we'd much rather do what we want. So the controllers know that. They know that. So yes, our consciousness is rising up. It's up to you what you're going to do with it, with all this data. And if you're not awake, it could be very problematic, because you're just going to follow what's in front of you naturally. So that's what I feel.
This leads to like that separation. Are we in the beginning stages of separating off into totally different tribes with totally different outlooks on things? I think so.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer.
Oh, okay. You can see that in society today. Just turn on the television. You got the people, in the news that are rounding up these people. I mean, you're going to touch on it, but you know what I mean. Some of them are rounding them up, and some people are cheering for it, and other people are cheering and saying, keep them here, don't do that. It's like, but that's wrong. And the other people are saying, we're right. Well, you're really you've gotten a divided society there over right and wrong.
Yep. And to answer the question, is that what this looks like? Yeah, it is going to be a mess. It's going to be a big mess. It's going to be like a bull in a china shop.
Yeah, I think we've been trying to, like we were talking about that video that you guys were talking about, the separation of the ages. It's not like we go just from, a dark age where everything totally sucks into a bronze age where it's perfect. There's a transition, and we're certainly not going right into a golden age. So I think there's a lot of misconception. We probably have a transition period which may end up lasting all of our lives and much longer, maybe a couple generations of transition. I know that's not what people want to hear. They want to hear, oh, it's going to be just
over tomorrow,
perfect tomorrow. Yeah. The politicians with their promises that they never, ever actually deliver on. There are people that still just want to hear that, and they'll still follow it. And then there's those that are just too awake now. Maybe, they get viewed as cynical, but they know what's been promised in the past, and it's never happened. It's just more for the, whatever you want to call them, the controllers, the elites, elites, cabal, Illuminati, etc., etc., archons, reptilians, yeah. It's just that separation between the haves and the have-nots. And I think they're at a place now where they're going to squish everybody into either just that tiny 0.5% or less, and everybody else. That's kind of what they're getting ready to really squish us like grapes in a wine press.
It feels that way. I know, little tiny houses and smart cities and all that kind of stuff. Although there's some of it that I don't mind, like I think everybody should be able to be 15, 20 minutes away from where they work. Everybody should be able to afford to live in the city that you work in. That's one thing. Like we're driving hours to get to work out here because we can't afford to live in Vancouver, So, so that aspect of it, I agree with. But I don't like the whole idea of them controlling us in there, and that, with the carbon credits, we can only go so far now, and then we can't, and if you do something, carbon credits will be taken away, and next thing you know, you can't go and visit grandma on the weekend now because you've used up all your credits and that sort of thing. That I don't agree with at all. So.
But Pete, you're right, Nina. Nobody agrees with it. I mean, right now, the age of the people don't agree with a lot of things. But we'll go back in history a little bit. I love history, so we'll talk a little history. And you're talking about ages. And all of us can agree they're different ages, but how do they change? Let's go with clothing. clothing's really easy to see about the changes. You know,
Mhm.
back in the revolutionary times, you've seen them guys, they're walking around in their coats and their high stockings up to their knees, and women having big ball dresses. But then as the times changed, somewhere along the line, the clothing changed little by little. And by the 1920s, you know, they're wearing suits and top hats, and, you know, women are wearing mini skirts by the 50s or 60s. And look at what they're wearing today, you know, all kinds of gobbledygook. But the
I was
idea
gonna
behind
say, yeah, the fashion's not really getting any better.
But
It's getting
here's the thing,
worse.
what changes the fashion is the propaganda and the people who present it. And then all the little people want to follow that. And nobody will go and just say, yeah, I want carbon credits and I want this change and I want that change.
Oh no, they're gonna
It's the
convince you of it.
propaganda that is going to change our minds. And that's not done through people like you and me. All of us here would not agree that we would like to pay more for using electricity, you know, something we all use. But our children will get told that in school. Electricity, you know, you know, gas is bad. You got to have electric cars, and you got to have this and that. Well, the next thing you know, they will grow up and they'll say, we don't like pea shooters, and we don't like fuel oil, and we want solar panels and wind, no matter how much we got to pay for it, because it's the right thing to do. And they've been drilled on that for 12 school years of their life and then into college.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think it. Yeah.
The indoctrination never ends. It
Yeah,
does
that's
change. They just shift tactics. They shift different ideologies. They're selling communism and socialism now very openly. You know, I mean, I see accounts. There's this one guy on X, and he's got 4 or 5 million followers, and he's posting things, and he's posting, I think, from, he might be in Canada or the U.S., but definitely from one of, you know, the Western Hemisphere here, just saying, look at what Mao did. Yeah, we should look to Mao. China's in a much better situation than us. Shouldn't we just adopt their ways? That's what the systems wanted all along, you know, and it's rolling out everywhere, even here in the US, even with 47, you know, with Trump doing some things that appear to be against maybe the rest of the control system, but how much of it's just controlled opposition to keep some people tolerant and happy, or thinking they have a little chance for something real. And, you know, will they pull the rug out or pull the football away when Charlie Brown's going to go kick it? That's what they do.
Yeah.
Well, the scary part here in Canada, Trudeau came out blatantly, said how much he admires China and how China does things, and China pretty much owns most of Canada already, so it's a done deal here. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out. Now, do you guys got a feeling that we're getting into war times?
Yeah, I would be surprised if it didn't happen before the New Year's.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that it's taken this long, you know, but yeah, I think there's a lot of signs, you know, that they plan on doing it. Yeah, maybe right around when this, you know, when you air this, you might be at war. When I think about it, around the solstice, I wouldn't be surprised if they kick-started it on a power day like.
Well, there's a powerful new moon on the 19th. So the Friday before the show, essentially. So we're still in that new moon phase now, I guess. And that, yeah, and it's a Friday. And most things do happen on a Friday. So that way we got the weekend to kind of mull it over before it hits the fan on Monday, you know, and that kind of thing. So yeah, that quite possibly something may have happened already by the time this show airs. And if that's the case, comment down below. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, when you think about it too, war, they would use things like a new moon, you know, when it's darker, a lot of times to do things. Yeah, you know, I was saying to Cindy even this morning, if we get through this month with no outbreak of WW3, then it really feels like we've shifted timelines in a much more positive direction. But it still doesn't mean they're not going to keep doing things like pushing forward with the carbon credit situation and pulling the rug out from under us economically with a crash that again will consolidate all the wealth even more into the hands of the few.
It seems like the middle class is more or less gone here. Yeah, or it's fading away real quick. With our generation, I guess, it'll be gone, unfortunately. And my kids are witnessing it, which is so bizarre, because they're going to go from being a middle class family all of a sudden to not being. So it's wow. It's a very interesting time to be here for sure.
Mhm.
And apparently we chose it. So, here we are.
There's that, that's really frustrating because sometimes things are very, very difficult and we don't like that thought that, wow, I chose this. That's a very
Yeah.
difficult pill to swallow at certain points of your life. And, until you see enough things go by and you're able to look back and look at your memories and say, okay, well, that needed to happen, or this and this and this wouldn't have happened. My concern with this world and all of the shorts that they're putting out, and they're draining us of our dopamine, which means they're draining us of our curiosity, which means they're draining most people's ability to look to history and do the deep study and the deep dives. And that's so very deliberate to keep us out of balance. So talking again about, changing of the yugas, the kundalini that rises naturally in every human being, if that is out of balance, people can quite literally go crazy. So what they're doing with the brain is they're pulling it back and forth, and they're not letting it balance, because once the brain is balanced and in coherence, people can see past BS, and they don't want that. The Kundalini is coming up, whether the controllers want, it doesn't matter what they want. It's going to rise, but they can control the imbalance in society and how much that affects people in their decision making. That's what they're controlling. To me, that's what I think.
Yeah, it seems that we go through a bit of a reset every couple 300 years. Empires come and go, and it feels like that's happening again. And this time it's the American Empire, unfortunately, which, most of you live there. And so, be prepared for that, I guess. I mean, it doesn't mean that America won't exist. Obviously, it will. It's just going to be a little bit different. It might be a different monetary system, control system and all of this kind of stuff. But hopefully, though, that there are some positive things. Like you said, we're moving now from the Iron Age up to the Bronze Age. Is that what's going on now? Do you mind explaining a little bit what that's all about?
It's a shifting in density, and from what we have gotten, it's very significant. It's not trivial. The way of life and everything in general changes with each yuga, and I think again the thing that we've been in the dark most about is our reality. Understanding that the system that we live in is just basically a parasitic leaching system with that sucking us dry. And it's been going on the entire time. It doesn't change when a party changes in the White House. It's still the same system. In the Bronze Age, we understand things, and in some ways, it's an age that can bring out a lot more open warfare in some ways, and more division. I wouldn't say the Bronze Age is necessarily an age of peace, but it's more of understanding the situation, a greater clarity. It's not, again, like Cindy was alluding to, you'll know when people are lying to you, and you'll be able to sense what the truth is in any given situation. But there still can be conflicts and all. But I think it's really, we're also in a dark system in which the vast majority of people don't have a clue. Even to this day, the majority still don't understand the situation that we're in.
Yeah, you guys were talking. You did a video earlier today, and I do suggest that you guys go and watch this video. It wasn't that long, so it's not going to be too much of your time. But yeah, you were talking about moving in, and also Trump has been talking about the golden age. What is this golden age? That will be the last step, I think, on that whole thing there. So that's probably going to take a while. Then I would think to get to that point.
embodied, I would say, yeah, because you get into the whole ascension process. And, we were talking about how when you talk about the golden age of Greece, for instance, with Hesiod and, the mythology, what does that tell us? It says that humans lived lives that were just like the gods. Amazing powers. You lived like 100,000 years. You only just decided you wanted to let go of this existence, and you would just lie down to go to sleep, leave your energy body behind, because in the golden age, where everybody might look solid to you, but you're really talking about a light body. So I think, again, when you look to the Bible and Jesus, after his change, his second rebirth there, he seemed different to people. And that's because, again, he had shed the physical body. And I do think that actually is what happens when we go up into a higher dimension. But I think what we have on Earth is a much more complicated situation. So I do think that if we go and pass on normally, those that are at high enough frequency will be able to embody some individuals in a 4D type of situation, others in a 5D situation, perhaps. Again, there's a lot of different theories out there as to the soul trap nature of the system. And I think they think they do try to trap souls, but I don't think they have that perfected. So I think, those that are beings that have a high vibrational frequency and have achieved a lot in past lives are not really trapped by the system. But I do think there are others that are trapped by the system and will tend to reincarnate in the same vibrational frequency, which, even if it is on Earth, it would be a similar planet still under the dark control matrix until we raise our frequency.
Yeah, you were mentioning repairing the DNA strands. That's one of those things that has baffled me. Apparently, only 2 out of the 12 are fused together for us. And so that's why we don't have any of our abilities and all this kind of stuff. You're talking about that being repaired. So without having to do anything, it's just automatically going to start repairing those DNA strands? Or how's that work?
The energy from the sun and the cosmic energy as a whole is helping us to ascend. And Cindy's even picked up that third eye, at last, 3-eye atlas. That's part of what it's doing, is it's kind of amplifying frequencies to speed that process. Because, yeah, we have had a lot of our DNA basically disabled. It's like going into a computer and turning off this program, turning off that program. That's what they did. They just left enough on for us to physically function. That's all they've left on. But what's happening is, naturally, the sun, again, and other stars are sending energies through to awaken and restructure our DNA. The interesting thing to realize, too, is DNA is not just in your physical body, it's also in your etheric body as well. It's a template that goes on into the layers of the energy body.
So they may be able to disrupt that DNA, that physical DNA, but our DNA and the energy is still very, very much intact. Now, to say you don't have to do anything to fix it, I don't think is quite true. But if you are eating healthy and you're organic and you're getting the sun, you're getting the grounding, you're doing all the things that nurture the human body, yes, I believe anything. And I've seen a lot of really wild healings happen. I believe anything can be put together, and Mother Nature is always going to go back to her blueprint. That's what she does.
We were working on somebody today that was very ill. And, I was working on sending energy into the lung meridians and then up into the sinuses. And, she felt it immediately, even though she's like 1,500, 2,000 miles away. And it just started to work right away. When I was pre-YouTube, 2015 or 2016, a friend basically said there's this young man in Africa that's really sick and they're worried he's going to pass on. He's like 18 years old. And so I got hooked up to a phone. Somebody handed him a phone, and I could see him just lying in bed. But did energy work on him, and the fever broke, and he was fine. It doesn't always work. It really depends on what the higher self has planned. Because if the higher self is doing this because you have a lesson to learn, if you don't learn the lesson, then you're just going to probably get sick again, or something's going to come back again. But this is the type of thing that can happen, and in reality would be normal if they didn't do all they could to, basically turn off so much of our abilities to help and heal each other, to psychically communicate. I know you do readings, Nina, so you're tapping into your higher self all the time, and this is something that if we do practice, we'll get better. And that's why, like Cindy and I, our self-care every day and is holistic. It's physical, it's spiritual. It's also, like Cindy was saying, we're watching what we're eating. We exercise every day. We exercise, I'd say 1, sometimes 2 hours a day, and then we do about an hour of meditation and qigong minimum a day. It's just our number one priority, and then we get to the other things that we get to. Which
it's
often
necessary with the line of work we do.
you have to,
You have
because
to.
if you are doing energy work on 2 or 3 dozen people a week all over the world, especially when they're new to you, you can take on a lot of energies that will make you sick. So you have no choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You would definitely need to do a lot of spiritual hygiene as well, to clean all that off, and yeah, that's a lot of people don't realize that how much work goes into preparing for that kind of work, and yeah.
It's a lot, and I think this day and age, the Bronze Age is going to look like this. It's going to be people like all of us together realizing that there's more out there. I don't think it necessarily means that things are going to get nicer or better. It's almost, to me, it's like cleaning out your closet. Things are going to look a lot worse before they get better, because you have to pull out all the ugly stuff, which means the truth is going to be coming out. You might find yourself in personal situations that are very uncomfortable, very disappointing, very, very painful, but you need those lessons to help bring you to the next level of your life, open a new chapter, start a new book, whatever that looks like. Sometimes we have to deal with things to mold ourselves and make ourselves better. And it's really hard to tell someone that when they're in a lot of pain, they're going through a lot of things. They can't pay their bills, they can't keep food on the table, and their children are sick. You can't tell someone that, but to me, that's deliberate, because it keeps people from going within and, like I said, raising that kundalini and being able to see past the veil.
Yeah, exactly. So that is kind of interesting. You think it's almost like the whole disclosure thing is sort of part of the next yuga kind of thing that we're going to be aware of, and maybe even live among other beings, maybe, that kind of thing. And then hopefully with that also get new technologies and new ways of doing things that might be better for us. And so that there's a lot of positive things, I think, coming.
Yep, a lot of good and bad, and it's all going to come out and give us an option. It's like, which way do you want to go? And right now we have a lot of choices, but it really feels like there's this noose kind of coming around our necks, because when we get on the computer, we have to prove that we're human 20 or 30 times a day.
Yeah.
And
Are you guys seeing that more too?
Yes.
Click this little box to prove that you're human.
Every time you go onto anything, it's you got to prove that you're human, and that's part of the whole digital ID. You see. So they're going to be like, well, once you got that, you'll never be prompted again, right? Because now we know, because you got the proper ID. You see. So we're going to get so sick of it. It's probably going to get a lot worse before they roll out the new system, and then they're going to roll it out as in, oh, well, it's going to be so much more convenient. It's going to be so much more better, and all this. And yeah, I see it coming. You can see the writing on the wall, with them doing that. So,
they'll also be able to track where you're looking, because I mean, a lot easier. You logged in. It wasn't a bot that had your name on it. It was really you that logged in here, logged in there. You checked off.
Exactly
Well,
what
you
you're
know,
doing.
and then yeah,
Mhm.
and then they're going to judge you by that. That's going to be your social credit score. And you looked
Well,
at
even the
these
things
things.
you
We
buy
don't
in the
like.
store, they're judging you, and they're going to control it. Like, well, you've already had 2 bags of potato chip this week, so you ain't getting another one, or you've had too much meat, or you've had too much whatever it is. And I mean, yeah, it's probably not a bad thing, because a lot of people make a lot of bad choices as far as the food goes, and we were just talking about that.
But Nina, it could go even farther than that. Even if they don't limit to you what you could buy, they could sell that information to insurance companies and stuff for health insurance and
They're already
say,
doing that
"Oh,
now. They're already doing
yeah,
that now. Yes.
this
Did you
guy
know
buys
that?
3 bags of potato chips a week, and this guy buys soda pop like by the
Yeah,
barrel."
or
You know,
cigarettes or booze, right?
yeah.
Because we've all been using the debit card, and that was one thing I stopped doing that. No more debit card for me, because you can see everything that I bought, and so did the bank, and so does anybody else that's reading your bank statements. And so I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not using that anymore. I don't mind the stores, maybe the points card, because I don't mind them stocking up on the things that I do want to buy. But the government and the bank, they don't need to know what I bought, when I bought it, how many times you know what I mean? Because the insurance people do have, and I can't remember what it's called, but they do use some kind of stats. They can tell you exactly how long they think you're going to live for already, just based on a few things. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
And,
yeah.
and if they ever go by the DNA of us, they will compare everybody's DNA and find out what your lineage is. And do
Yeah.
you have long life in your family, short life in your family, good health, bad health, cancer, no cancer,
Well, the thing is
And
that,
then,
they gave us all of that in the first place. Like, yeah, my parents aren't living very long. Nobody's made it to 70 yet, because they gave them this, thing in the polio thing in the 50s that had it in it. So that's not really fair now, is it? It's not nothing to do with your DNA or anything else. It has to do with what they have done to us. Never mind 2020, what they were doing to us then. So, but I guess by knowing who they gave it to, they'll know that, oh, well, those people aren't going to live to be 65 and collect that check, which is their optimal goal. They want you to live long enough that they can use all your productive years. But as soon as you start slowing down, boy, no, you're out of here. So
Yeah. Trump was bringing up pushing it back, the retirement age into the 70s. So
I would, well, my brother and people around me will say, well, I'm not going to retire. I'll never be able to retire. That's never going to happen. The retirement is the thing of they'll literally have to kick people out. I saw with my old manager, she could barely make it up 2 stairs. She's had her hip replacement. She's falling asleep at her desk because she's not sleeping at night because she's in so much pain. The woman should have been retired a long time ago. She's 7 years old, but here she is taking care of her grandkids because her kids ended up being drug addicts, and now she's taking care of the grandkids. They're renting, which means how you can never retire. Never. So
no, I mean, there's so much to what you were just saying from so many different angles. Like there are things, now they're going after CBD here, and it's been like open and allowed, but they're starting to
yeah,
look.
I saw that.
There's also that item that's related to coffee. It starts with a K that can remove a ton of pain, but it will also take away a ton of profits from big pharma, so they
Yeah.
can't have that.
Mhm.
And the fact that in Canada, I mean, now they're euthanizing more people than like ever by a mile.
Thousands upon thousands of people are getting convinced to go through the MAIDS program. You guys can look that up. But yeah, they're convincing, clients, right? And people who are depressed and elderly, of course, to do that. You're doing society a favor then, you see, if you do that, and I wouldn't be surprised. I've said this to my family, I remember a couple of years ago. I wouldn't be surprised that there is going to be an incentive for elderly people to exit out of here early, and then there'll be a benefit for your children, you see.
Yep.
So they're going to want to do it because then, and if you don't do it, because it's going to cost that much money in palliative care, it's going to cost this much money for this and that and the other thing. And if you don't do it, then it's going to affect your kids negatively. They're not going to have whatever.
Do you remember Logan's Run? Do you remember that show from the 70s, Logan's Run? When you
Logan's
turn
Run, yeah.
35, they have a big ceremony and they kill you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
They,
I mean, 35 is
and they were, but the thing is they were so propagandized into that they wanted to do it.
yeah.
You
Right.
know, they
Yeah.
wanted to go there. And what did they think? They thought that these people were flying up into the heavens. Remember the movie? They were flying around in circles and going up into the sky. And then this guy says, wait a minute. You know, I don't know. I don't,
I'm
maybe.
not
And
going
he
in the
was
furnace.
thinking out of the box, and he was like, oh, but then you go to the TV show, and what was it? The one cop guy. I don't know if you ever watched the TV show Logan's Run, but anyway, he was requested by the elders, and he went to a secret part of the compound where the old people who actually made the decisions and ran everything. And he's like, oh my God, you people are all old. And he was freaked out. And they said, well, you can't tell anybody. And if you do this and catch Logan, and you could be one of us. And so that was his incentive to. Now he knew the secret, but he had to hunt Logan down to get rid of him, so Logan didn't spread the secret.
What if I told you that's basically like the original Moses story from the Sumerian tales? You know,
Yeah.
because they turned Utnapishtim into one of them, and an immortal, of sorts. Not really, but yeah. I mean that it's all right there in front of our face. They gotta do the disclosure. They do it through the movies mostly, or the mythology too. But it's still moving forward.
That's what frustrates me is, a lot of people say, well, don't worry, there are certain people wearing a certain color hat that's in charge, but no matter how many good things I see dropping, I see there's still hundreds and thousands and a billion other things that are not good for us. So, again, unfortunately, it's going to be up to us to kind of take control as much as possible, eat the right foods, do the right things, but we're so busy working. I mean, it's a mess, and I go in circles with myself in my mind because I'm frustrated too. I like to have a happy attitude. I like to make people smile and people happy, because if you don't laugh or joke or be happy, you're going to cry. You really are.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I
So
think the way I'm seeing it with the young people, I think what's going to happen is that the young people are going to wake up, okay, and they're not going to trust any of the food in the grocery store anymore. They're not going to trust any of the stuff that we got. They're going to start to be at home, because jobs are going to be gone, and a lot of them are going to be women's jobs. So women are going to be at home again. And now she's going to start being in charge of what their family's eating. She's going to start growing her own food, start preserving the food, and start going back to the sort of the way it was before. Everything is organic and natural and holistic. You know what I mean? Like I'm just getting into making my own creams now. I'm not going to buy a single cream from the grocery store ever again. I'm going to make my own. And I think the young, I'm seeing my nieces and stuff, and I haven't even said anything. It's not me influencing them. They're doing it on their own. They're already starting to do these things, And so I think that's what's going to happen. And then, they're just going to have to pull that stuff off the shelf. Nobody's buying it.
let's see,
Right.
but I disagree on that.
You disagree.
I like the thought of it, but I like the thought of it. It sounds all rosy and rainbows. But the thing is as you move these people into these 15-minute cities, the people are going to be jam packed. They're not going to have gardens, areas. Right now, a house. Most people are renting these little small apartment buildings. They don't have room to grow one vegetable or anything. They have to buy everything from the store. And they're running these small farms and organic places out of business, or putting the taxes so high that they have to sell off. They're getting fewer and fewer all the time. The regulations and all of that. So people are just saying, well, it says organic, but is it really? It came from a mega farm.
Well, that's what I mean. You can't trust it. I've heard that the organic isn't really organic. That stuff is also sprayed with stuff. So that's what I mean. Like women, the Mama Bear, you start messing with Mama Bear, and she starts waking up to this stuff, realizing what she's done to her children, like me. Like I gave my kids Tylenol and all this stuff. Like I didn't know, fluoride. I mean, shit. And so once they start waking up, they're not going to want to buy anything, because you can't trust it. And I think what's going to happen too, we're going to start getting rid of the cars, right? And start building garden boxes in the parking lots. Or, there's a lot of land around, like, or even the apartment building. I know for me, I'm, when the day comes, I'll be approaching my manager here and says, look, I don't mind gardening. We've got tons of space up here. I already have all the seeds, greenhouse. I got all kinds of things that I went and bought as soon as 2020 hit. I knew what was coming. So I know what we need to do, but right now nobody's on board yet. But I think they are. I think it's gonna come that way. And so, the sooner we start to sort of, go that way, I think that the easier it's going to be rather than having to be forced to, so, which you guys are already doing. You're already awake to all of this stuff. So yeah, it's, I do see positive things coming, it's just that transition phase of rooting up all the old, all the corruption and all of the nasty stuff that's going on here right now. We got to pluck her out. And unfortunately, sometimes the flower does get in the way of with the weeds. You know what I mean? That does happen. And to expect a few flowers to go with the weeds. But, I do see, that's the way I'm choosing to look at it anyway. So what do you guys think?
I think that what's going to happen is there's going to be breakaway civilizations. You're going to have countries, states, counties, towns that just won't go along with things, and they're going to start to be maybe freer zones because you got, I don't know what the percentage is, but you have people like us that understand the bigger picture. And there's no way we're going to get squished back into a smart city. I would not. I wouldn't go to war for any of these politicians. And of course, they might bring a draft on. Maybe with any month. We get into WW3, and they'll be looking at drafting everybody up to 60.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, right?
Oh.
But there's going to be a ton of people that know that's just a control mechanism. It's just a depopulation mechanism, and it's a moneymaker. So I think you're going to have this time around a lot more people refusing to go along. And even up in Canada, there's some thought that there might be some breakaway provinces up there.
Well, Alberta's making some promising things. Apparently, they're not going along with the gun ban. Alberta. And so I know Canadian Prepper, he's already talking about maybe moving to Alberta now, and so I wouldn't be surprised if my kids want to move to Alberta because of that. Yeah, you got to go where it's going to be, comfortable for you, I guess, right? And I have heard that in the future, America is going to break up into 3 parts or something. And so, I don't know. What do you guys see there? Like, do you see that happening? Like,
Cindy had a vision, and it was split into 5 parts in her vision.
Okay.
That was back in 2019 or 2020.
Yeah, 2020.
So the timeline might have shifted a little, but yeah, it was broken up into 5 different pieces. If you're talking about that, and his name escapes me, he's a pretty famous remote viewer, that remote view for the government. What he saw was China having control of all of Canada, and a big chunk of the U.S. too, like the West Coast, for instance. So will that happen? I think still we can affect timelines. We can affect likelihoods by just awakening as many people as possible to whatever plans that we understand that they're trying to do. Because think about it, Americans will tell you they're not going to take our 400 million guns away from 340 million people here. Mm-hmm. They'd like to do it, but they understand that. So how can they get to the same outcome? Well, if the U.S. loses, World War III, and China wins, and we're under military occupancy, then you have that same scenario.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see. It's interesting now that America, they're starting to panic a little bit now because they led us into this obesity crisis, right? And now they're realizing, oh shoot, our major population is all obese and out of shape. How's that going to work with the whole military strategy? You know what I mean? Like, oopsie, maybe we shot ourselves in the foot here, you know? So that's kind of hilarious to watch, honestly. But yeah.
But I think that was all done on purpose to bring us to that position, because they've wanted to have the U.S. fall for a long time. And, they knew that they were going to shift it to the Chinese model, and the BRICS nations. Like, we have a good friend that understands this very, very well. And, he was just saying to me, I'm trying to pick what BRICS nation to move to. Because he knows they're going to be the one that comes out on top. So it's like, might as well maybe think about getting over to one of those countries that's going to have it a lot easier than us.
Well, all of a sudden, Russia doesn't look so bad,
That's true. Remember this? Well, I don't know. You're probably not old enough to remember the Soviet Union. But,
oh, yes, I do. Yeah, I do. KGB. It was all about KGB in the 80s, and then all of a sudden it disappeared. Like, what happened to that? It's funny how they just take it away but don't say anything. It's like, oh, yeah, remember this, remember that? Yeah, no, I do remember. Yeah, it was all about Russia this, Russia that.
I always look at everything that's happening with the politicians and the news as the reasoning for why things end up evolving the way that they evolve, because it's all been scripted. They know, what they want to have as far as an outcome. So they just they have to give us the logic to go back into the history books and say, well, yeah, they shot themselves in the foot. They could only find, 20% of the people would actually qualify to join the military in the first place. This is why they lost the war, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Two divided. They were fighting themselves and then got taken out by the BRICS nations.
Well, it also could be, Skynet and all of that stuff that they already put into the movies. You're right. None of us are really able to hike that 20 miles or fight in a war. We're too passive. There's very few people that are qualified. And so this is a good opportunity to bring in the robots, bring in the robot fighting machines, bring in the AI, bring in all of that stuff. And people cheering it on. Woo! Robots are going to do the fighting for me.
Right. Well, that's what I would have thought that they would have done. I mean, drones. I mean, doesn't that make more sense than boots on the ground? I mean, but yeah,
it does. But and it'll be great. We might win the war, and it'll be great. But here's the problem. During wars, we all know during wars, lots of technology goes through the roof, and when that goes through the roof, it comes back after the war to make a profit from the consumer. And it will be in our streets. Why do we need policemen when we got robot policemen?
Well, I think it's going to be the way. I think that is going to be the way. Police are going to be gone. You sort of saw it, a little tendency of that in 2020. Policemen are being gaslit now. There's so much violence. There's so much corruption that goes on there, right? So it just kind of makes sense that, and this is the robot dogs. Trump already has one on his property, apparently. So those are going to be around. There'll be drones everywhere. I mean, just look at the movies. They've already told you what it's going to look like.
Right. And like you were saying about the robots, what country is rolling out massive numbers? It's China. China is actually putting on the streets thousands now. They're starting now, because this is why also I think that the war is scheduled for very soon, because we'll get used to seeing the scenes on, CNN or whatever, of the technology of drones. Then we'll get used to literally robot soldiers and stuff. And, that will be what you said. That will be the entirety of the police and the military at some point, besides humans needed to operate things.
Yeah, they'll just film you, so if you jaywalk, they'll see it. If you steal something, they'll see it, and they don't need a policeman, and you there's a commercial, I think, where this guy is stuffing his pockets full of stuff. He just walks out. Well, no worries, because that all gets scanned automatically when you walk out. There's no more theft. There's no more of that. Everything is scanned. You can't get away with nothing. So that seems to be the way, and unfortunately, a lot of jobs are going to be gone. That's the thing. There's most jobs, really. The only jobs that are secure right now, I think, is trades. We still need people to build houses and repair that toilet, but anything else, pretty much, AI can do now. So yeah, that's the way to do. So yeah. Anyways,
The thing is, though, the AI has always been here, all of our lives. It's
yeah,
always
that's what I've got to. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just been hidden, and
We
so
didn't know how to tap into it. It's what I got. And same with electricity. It's always been here as well. We just didn't know how to tap into it, which makes me wonder then what else is around us right now that we just don't know how to tap into.
Yeah.
You know?
well,
I-
the life force,
Yeah.
most people don't. So, like when you were saying, how do you develop like superhuman abilities and stuff, or it's just the sun's going to do it for us. I think again, learning how to draw the chi in through qigong and other modalities, pranic healing, and etc. Learning how to draw the chi in. If you look into the Taoist tradition, from way back, there was thought to be these immortals, these Taoist immortals that knew the tricks and the secrets and would live long lives. One guy was on record because the Chinese government kept sending him happy birthday notices every so often. He lived to be, according to some reports, 300 years old.
Wow.
300 years old. He was definitely at least 250 something, because they literally had record of wishing him happy birthday. And he was a qigong master. But I think that was possible in the Kali Yuga to very few people. But in the Bronze Age, yeah, I mean, I think any of our kids, really, once they got themselves detoxed from all the stuff that they have in their bodies, they could probably live a couple hundred years pretty easy on average.
Yeah, I might have to get into qigong. Maybe that's more something my style. Because yoga, I don't know, I can't get into some of these positions. I just can't do it. So maybe the qigong is more my style. Yeah, I should try that.
Have you seen our videos? Because we do have a few qigong videos too.
No, but I probably will then. Yeah, because they do it in the mall at 9 o'clock in the morning. They're doing qigong in the mall. I see a lot of the Chinese. Are in there doing the thing. And yeah, I mean, yeah, they seem to live long lives over there. Doing that. So yeah. I think I'll have to go and try that.
It's
Well,
amazing.
again, these people over in China, they're not embellished with so much. Well, at least back in the day, embellished with propagandism that says, "Hey, eat this, buy this, do that." It's work, eat some rice, meditate, do your qigong stuff, and work. Good routine, some good friends, less stress, and less food. Here it's like, oh boy, I can have burgers, fries, and a big ice cream shake afterwards.
Yeah, supersize everything. I know. Well, that's the thing. I think people can agree with that, but
and of course you said, you're eating all these chemicals. These guys that live 300 years, they're eating leaves off of a tree and a little bit of rice that they grew in their backyard.
Well, it makes me wonder with China, because China got caught with having some kind of poison in their formula. Remember that? I mean, they're poisoning their own children. So I don't know, how healthy is their food. I don't know. I've been over there.
There is a fascinating story relating to Mao. And Mao was fronted and really supported by the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. That was all basically funded through the big banks of Europe and the United States. And even when he had taken power, then he shifted away from traditional Chinese medicine, and people didn't like that, but he did shift away from it. And he literally shut down the parks that people would go and do qigong in and tai chi for a while. But then one of his top generals got real sick, stage 4 cancer, and the Western doctors said there's nothing we could do for you. He was desperate. He went to a medical Qigong, traditional Chinese medicine doctor, that ended up curing him. And then Mao reinstated and said, okay, we could go back to do some of our ways, that because the people knew this, and he really also had shared his story kind of publicly, because the Rockefellers and Rothschilds wanted to institute Western medicine there. That was a big profit, machine for them.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a tangled web, very tangled.
Yeah, I've heard that they were banning certain spiritual practices over there. They don't
Yeah.
want the people to get awake and healthy and all this. Yeah. So they're doing the same things to their own people as we're doing here. It seems that Russia actually don't. They don't allow microwaves in the homes there and certain things, that's another thing that we're still doing, and we don't realize how bad it is, and I'm trying to convince my kids, they're still they're still doing the things, yeah, it's frustrating right now. It's really frustrating time to be here when you're awake and you're waiting for everyone else to catch up. Yeah.
And today I did see something hopeful though, because I saw where, I don't know if I can say the big names, but some really, really big names are actually being called out on mass media for putting so many chemicals and poisons in the food. So that was encouraging today, but really, what is it going to take for the masses to wake up to the level that we're awake, and for there to be a resistance? Because without a resistance, it's just going to keep trotting down the same path for many people.
I guess it's going to take quite a bit because, people are complacent. They're busy, right? And they keep you busy for a reason so that you don't sit and think about things, right? Because if they start thinking about things and they realize, then they're going to get mad and there'll be some kind of resistance, you know what I mean? But if they just keep them busy, especially with the whole video games and the marijuana, well, that will keep them busy. They won't do anything or say anything. They're busy with that. So
I hope Alberta does break away. If something like that could happen, that could really lead to a lot of disintegration of their power structure.
yeah, I hope so too. I hope there's some changes. As uncomfortable as it's going to be, it is necessary. We have to make some really big decisions here as a country, and if we need to break away, we need to break away. The nonsense time,
Well, you think it's going to be that easy. Well, look what happened. Let's go back and go history here again, Anya. History crazy. Look what happened with the Civil War in the United States. These states wanted to break away from the Union because, they were really, it wasn't about the slavery so much. It was about their fair share of the money, and the northern states were the industrial half, and the southern states were the agricultural half. But there was more people in the northern states making the decisions for the southern states, taxes, money, the whole bit. They decided to break away, and look what happened. Alberta trying to break away. Do you believe they're just going to say, well, okay, you guys raised your hands and voted and said, okay, you're going to break away. Good riddance, have fun. No, they're not going to do that. They will send in the military or whatever they have to do, and they will make an example out of that place.
Great. Well, most of our oil is in Alberta, so that's
I'm just saying is on the big scale, and as history has taught us, I don't believe that they're just going to say, okay, you want to break away, you voted for it, good deal, bye-bye.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem a little too good to be true, to be honest. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But anyways, okay. I just realized that I haven't really shown the audience who Mike and Cindy are. I have your website here. Why don't we go in there and take a look? Because we're past the hour already. I don't know how much time you guys have, but let's go here. So here's their website. Make sure you go and check it out. How do you say it? evolutionaryenergyarts.com?
Evolutionary Energy Arts. Yeah. It's mostly, we view it we view ourselves as very, very holistic spiritual helpers, guides, teachers. Most of our clients, utilize more than one thing from us. A lot of times they'll have a Vedic astrology chart with Cindy, along with energy work, and then we might go into more of a life coaching thing, or help with nutrition and maybe even exercise or workout schedule and ideas, things like that.
Yeah.
I've been a massage therapist. I was a personal trainer. I specialized in sports nutrition. But it's just part of the story because I've done qigong for like 35 years around there. So that's just been like a daily part of my life for a very long time. And we're both Reiki master teachers and studied pranic healing, quantum touch, polarity therapy, cranial sacral therapy. So we have a lot of tools to pull from.
I see that. I'm just going through all the stuff here. You guys got quite a bit of stuff here. A lot of the Eastern teachings, though, that you guys use.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then Cindy is an amazing, gifted psychic. She can pretty much almost always connect with like loved ones that have passed on, and she's a channel, both a trance channel and then also awake as well.
He's the powerhouse behind all of it. All of it. It's this guy right here. He's the one. But yeah, we customize what people need. So sometimes it's that upliftment of the soul. Sometimes it might be to connect and get confirmation that a loved one is still with them. Sometimes it might be who are my guides, who are my angels. But ultimately, we like to teach people how to find that for themselves. If they're having trouble, it's like I want to connect, then we teach them how to connect. So you really can put it all together and customize whatever you need spiritually, because that's not covered enough in our world. People don't know how to go deep within. They don't know how to ask themselves the harder questions. They don't know how to break out of their bad patterns. It's like, why do I always get up and do the same thing day after day after day, and I know it's wrong? Why do I keep doing it? But there's something there in that subconscious that we work on kind of teasing it out, and we work together. We bounce off of each other very well. So
Awesome.
with
Yeah.
him, there's no me. So
She's too kind. But no, it's been like, for me, everything started when I was 10 to 12. I was like tormented by kids, picked on by like a whole gang of little hoodlums incessantly, and it drove me into the martial arts, but also working out, but also just kind of being introverted for a lot of my life. And I just studied. I always just kept studying. And so I've gone through a lot of different schooling, official, and then on my own too, just to keep learning about all the mysteries. Like, we have our camera propped up on 2 medical qigong volumes that have about 2,000 pages there. That's the type of stuff we're deep into. But over here we have alien identities and how the universe works,
and Shiva
quantum
Sutras.
physics. So yeah, we go deep into all the mysteries. That's what's always, both of us, found just fascinating.
Yeah, that's kind of like me too. I mean, you got to kind of study the past in order to figure out what's going on now, and then trying to figure out what's about to happen, in the future. And so it is good. And a lot of people are awakening up now, and they're going to need spiritual coaching. They're going to need people who, like yourselves. So that's great. Yeah, that's good. It's going to be much needed, I think, coming up. A lot of people are losing their minds.
They are, some kind of balance, because for a lot of people, there's so much trauma out there, and I cannot stress this enough. When that Kundalini hits, it starts to rise. People can absolutely go crazy. Really, I mean, the anxiety shoots up, the maybe paranoia kicks in. I was in a position I didn't understand my abilities, so I tend to help people or mentor people that have abilities that might be having trouble. They don't know how to harness them. They don't know how to use them, but they're going crazy in their lives and they're trying to figure out, why am I like this? Well, it's because you're extremely sensitive. You're very, very psychic. You just don't know it. So you have all this data coming in from everywhere, and you take it all on to be all yours. And it's not all yours. You're sensing everything. So sometimes people need a little help understanding that.
Absolutely. You know, a lot of us are empaths and we do take on other people's energies. You know, that's why we talk about spiritual hygiene. You know, when you come home from being out there in the malls and airports, and, you know, you most likely are going to pick up something. And so it's important to kind of, you know, cleanse and clear and all that stuff, you know, after when you get home. And yeah. So a lot of our thoughts aren't actually our own either. So that's another thing.
No, if you don't know that you just brought home, you know, a dozen different thought forms that are stuck all over your body and you're in a really bad mood, you might take it out on your spouse, your dog, your child. You just don't know that it's not yours. And then everybody cleanses in a different way. So, but how to get it cleansed, how to recognize it, cleanse it so that you can reclaim your life, really.
Absolutely. There's ways of getting rid of it without having to wait it out, you know, so to speak. Because yeah, you know, you wake up in the morning, you're in a great mood and whatever, and you go to work. Maybe a lot of times it's your workplace. You pick up energies from your coworkers. Next thing you know, you're in a bad mood. You don't even know why. And it's not even you. It's not yours. You know, yeah.
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 Sage is your friend.
Yes.
That's right. Sage, or I have developed a spray that I use. It works instantly. It just clears everything away. And yeah, I use it all the time. I have no bumps in the night around here. Knock on wood. I don't want to jinx myself. But yeah. So, well, it was great having you guys on here. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you guys are busy people, and same with Robert. I know he's a busy guy as well. And it was great having you guys on here. And I hope that we're wrong about the whole, you know, WWW happening around the time that this is airing. I hope that everybody is enjoying the season, enjoy the holidays. I mean, you know, I've probably said this before, but, you know, this might be the last one, maybe, you know, for a lot of people, or the way it's been. It might be different coming, you know, not to say that we're not going to be here, but it might be a different way of living. You know, we might not be celebrating anything at this time of the year, maybe, because, you know, religion is going to change as well, or our spiritual practices are going to change, and everything is going to change. So, you know, enjoy whatever you guys got going on, whatever it is that you're celebrating at this time of the year. There's every religion seems to be celebrating something around this. So it'd be hard for them to take that away, I think. But yeah, for most of us, I think it's a good time to kind of just chill, right? It's you know, just lay low. It's the darkest time of the year. Just enjoy some nice company, some good food, you know, and just relax. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to be doing. So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, guys. I appreciate your time. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you hit the like and share, and go check out their YouTubes. I'll have everybody's links down below there. I have a lot of other platforms that you could be following as well. I do have some exciting news coming up in the new year, but I'll wait for that then. So in the meantime, though, just enjoy your holidays. Happy New Year if I don't see ya. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, everybody.
Bye.